Welcome to episode number 11 now of the Colombian Soccer Show. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Juan Pimiento, as always, coming to you here via Facebook, via YouTube. Thank you for joining me. I know it's a bit of an awkward time when it comes to the Colombian national team because, of course, to a lot of us, we're still getting over the hangover, if you will, of the elimination at the hands of Switzerland from the World Cup. And we've debating all week long about the future of this team. So that's what I'm here to do. That's what you're here to do as well. So make sure you comment also down below here on YouTube and Facebook. Make sure that you tell us, you let us know exactly how do you feel? What should Colombia do? Who should leave? Who should stay? Who should the coach be? Which I think is the big question coming up for this team heading forward. Now, when it comes to that, your participation is key. So as always, we invite you to follow us on every social media. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to subscribe, make sure to like this video so more people can see and join the conversation as well. On Facebook too, make sure to like our page, make sure to like this video so you get notified every single episode of this podcast. As soon as it's posted, you get notified and you can watch it and you can comment right down below. Also, join us. We've been starting the conversation a little bit via Instagram and TikTok. We had a lot of talk, a lot of feedback about the next coach. I put that out there as a reel. So if you haven't, make sure to follow us also on Instagram and TikTok, the Colombian Soccer Show, so you get all the action as well. And you can comment and you can also like and check out our videos because that's where we get the most content from. It's Instagram and TikTok. So on that note, let's talk about the future because again, everybody's been doing it. What do Colombia do now? How do we get over the hump of the round of 16? It's been now 2 World Cups in a row. Of course, not going to 2022, skipping that one, but Russia, we exit at the hands of a European team via PKs. 2026, we exit round of 16 against a European team via PKs. So what comes now? And I feel it's very appropriate because we're recording this on Monday, the 13th. And just a few minutes ago, we had this from Davinson Sanchez. And I'll translate, or actually I can just have AI translate it, or not. Okay, well, this is Davinson Sanchez, who was the vice captain for this team in the World Cup. And I think going forward, should be the captain. We'll get to that in more depth in just a second. But this is what he messaged or he posted on his social media a few minutes ago. A painful end is not going to erase the pride of leaving the soul on the pitch for this country. Thank you, Colombia, for the support, the unconditional support, each and every battle. This dream doesn't die. It only transforms into hunger for what comes next. We will be back. And that's the spirit, right? We'll be back. Well, how do we get back? Because there's a lot of question marks and not, of course, least important, I'll put it that way, is how do you get back? Because FIFA wants to expand to 64 teams. So does that mean there's no qualifiers? Like, do we all go to the World Cup automatically? Because the next World Cup in 2030, Argentina, Paraguay, and Uruguay are already qualified. So it's going to be 7 teams remaining in South America for how many spots? I don't know. So I think Colombia are pretty much guaranteed to go next World Cup if that stays, right? But of course, that's not enough. We're way past the point, I feel like, where qualifying is the achievement. Not even group stage anymore. Not even round of 16. That's why I said last time after the game against Switzerland, this was a failure because the bar was set in 2014 when Colombia made it to the quarterfinals. I think anything below that is failure. Quarterfinals, we met expectations. And anything beyond that is progress, right? How do we get there? How do we get over the bar and feel like we're progressing? And everybody's been doing the exercise, of course, about the rosters, about the young players coming up. But before we get there, there's more context, not just the tournament itself, but let's not forget too that Colombia and its soccer federation just had elections. And there's controversy as far as who's going to be the president because the current president, who's been the president since 2013, 14, something like that. Ramon Yesurun, FIFA vice president, Comebol vice president, very well connected with the higher ups of the soccer hierarchy, and also very well connected to a lot of people in Colombia who are very powerful beyond the sports realm that allow Jesurum a lot of protection. But that's a whole different discussion. But this is key because Colombia and its laws, when it comes to the sporting federations, only limit presidents to reign for 3 terms. So there is a debate because by the time served specifically, Jesurum already met his 3 terms. He's making the argument that his first term was an interim term and it doesn't count, basically. He came in, quick context, the last president was Luis Bedoya. Luis Bedoya had basically, he turned himself into American authorities during the whole FIFA Gate thing. So Jesurum took over, finished Bedoya's term, and has served 2 more terms since. He was reelected to what he thinks will be his third term, but there's a sector of Colombians, soccer authorities, of federation board members who say, Mm-mm-mm, "You're done. We need somebody else new in the presidency." So, what does this matter? Because Yesurum, from accounts, from reports, wants to extend Nestor Lorenzo another World Cup cycle, and that's where it comes down to who's president. Because a new president might not want that. Now, there's nothing new as far as Lorenzo's future because his contract ends, let's not forget, at the end of this month. So there's still a couple of weeks basically for negotiations. If Yesurun wants Lorenzo to remain, to extend, well, he's going to have to pay him more money because Lorenzo is one of the lowest paid national team coaches in South America. So Lorenzo is going to want a raise. And we know how that went when it came to Peckerman in 2018. So there's nothing guaranteed, but again, we have an idea where things are going. Now, there's been, of course, as always, a lot of speculation about who the coach is going to be. And it's all rumor now, but I'll put in on either side of my face 4 names, right? Lorenzo is one of them, but these are 3 more names that have been bandied about. Again, it's all rumor and speculation and innuendo, but at least we have a window, if you will, into what could be. Now, if you remember last time when Peckerman ended up parting ways with the Federation, Carlos Queiroz came in, lasted only a few months. He got fired. Reinaldo Rueda comes in. Colombia failed to qualify for Qatar 2022. Then Colombia take a while to look for the next coach, and they turn into a bit of an unexpected direction, although not surprising when they brought in Nestor Lorenzo, who of course was a former Jose Peckerman assistant, and he knew the players, he knew the dynamics of coaching this national team. His only experience coaching was managing Melgar, a club in Peruvian soccer, not even one of the elite when it comes to Peruvian soccer. So that kind of was a bit of a left field hire, if you will. And here we are, right? Lorenzo comes in, starts building something very good. There's the unbeaten streak, which, of course, again, is most friendlies, but Colombia start qualifying on a good note. Copa America is the peak. Make it to the finals, lose out in extra time. Then the team sputters into the World Cup. And again, Lorenzo, it looks like things are kind of turning around a little bit during the World Cup until we get bounced again in the round of 16. So, is he the right coach? The guys who are right here on either side, we have Dunga here on this side. Dunga's only experience really was managing Brazil after the bad ending that it was for them 2014. He gets fired, right? Has a bad Copa America in Chile, has a even worse Copa America in the US, the Copa America Centenario in 2016. He gets canned, hasn't coached since. The guy right below, right here, why am I even pointing? Marcelo Gallardo, no national team experience, of course, best known for his great success in his first stint as the manager for River Plate, wins Copa Sudamericana, wins Copa Libertadores. I mean, that was just basically like River Plate's latest golden period. Leaves, goes to the Middle East, things don't go well, comes back to River Plate, things didn't go well at all compared to his first stint. So he's been bandied about, and Gallardo was a name that was also mentioned in the last coaching hire cycle in 2022. Has links to some of the Colombian players. He coached Juanfer Quintero, coached Rafael Santos Borré, has been coaching Kevin Castaño the last couple of seasons, so he has some familiarity, of course. This is the guy to me that is could be the pipe dream, I guess. Slatko Dalic, Croatia national team manager, took Croatia to the final in 2018, took Croatia to a semifinal in 2022. Then this past World Cup, of course, we saw what happened against Portugal, round of 16. They should have at least took it to penalty kicks. The censor did a touch, the ball touched the Croatians' hair, whatever. Croatia crashed out basically in a very tight game, but very good effort. We know what they did against Colombia in those friendlies in March. They completely demolished us. And if you believe reports, Dalic was close also 4 years ago and had interest in joining Colombia as the coach. To me, this is the profile right here. A guy who's taking his national team in Croatia to the highest of levels, which was the semis and the finals. What did I just talk about? What to me, what's progress when it comes to Colombia in the World Cup? Semifinals and finals. This guy has done it. He's gonna cost a pretty penny by Colombia. The Federation, don't let anyone tell you otherwise. They got money. So we have the means to be able to do it. But let me know. You guys comment. Who could it be? And throw out any name that you want because, of course, I mean, there's fantasy names like Pep Guardiola who's available, right? Maybe even Lionel Scaloni, the Argentina manager, who, I mean, who knows if he's going to continue on with Argentina after this World Cup. They're back in the semifinal now. We'll see what happens against England. But he's been there now for two World Cup cycles. He already threatened to quit once. He has been very flirtatious when it comes to Colombia, has spoken very high of the team, and if you believe reports, also interested in coaching Colombia. So, could he be a name? You let me know. Who do you think? Or do you want Lorenzo to stay? Because a lot of people support Lorenzo again because of what I talked about. Copa America final. The team played very well during a long stretch of time leading up to the Copa America final. He took us back to a World Cup, right? That's the argument. He took us back to a World Cup, even though, of course, this was the expanded World Cup. But again, that's a whole debate. You let me know. What do you think? Should Lorenzo stay for another 4 years? Should someone else come in? Who should come in? You let me know. That's on the coaching front. Let's talk about the players. Because if you remember, Colombia came into this World Cup as one of the oldest squads, average wise, of all 48 teams. So let's look at this squad. This is the squad from 2016. So if you look at the ages again, you have it in the screen. That's what it looks like, right? So let's do the exercise. I'm gonna give you now the names and the faces that should remain and should go. And this is mostly, of course, given the ages of these players, because a lot of them, you're looking at it right now, we have players as old as 37, some as young as 22. We have a lot of players who are 28, 29. Some players are already in their 30s. So, how do you handle that, right? Because age is a number, ultimately. And do we just disqualify players because of age only? I don't know. But this is what I would do with this squad right here. So we have the squad in front of you. So you see that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of the 26 players to me are gone almost purely on age, right? And that includes guys like James and Camilo Vargas and Jerry Mina, who's only 31. And you have Johan Mojica, who's 33. Machado is 32. Juanfer Quintero is 33. John Cordova is 33. And you're gonna say, okay, well, some of the players are still playing in Europe, like John Cordova, who's still playing at a high level, at least on the club end, right? So you might ask yourself, well, why don't we just keep them around, right? We have Copa America coming up in this exercise. Well, that's the thing. So it's not as easy as just say, okay, we'll get rid of half the squad and see what happens, right? But let's take a little bit of the case by case. So, for example, Camilo Vargas and David Ospina again. Cycles ended. I think, and it pains me to say because he's one of my favorites to watch. Juanfer Quintero, again, you can stretch it out to Copa America, but by Copa America he'll be 35. He's already a guy who's playing more off the bench than anything. What kind of player is Quintero gonna be at 35? I don't trust that we're gonna see the same Juanfer through Copa America. So just bring people in, right? Bring people in. That's the whole purpose. James, we're gonna have a whole episode about James coming up, and I'll give it to you right now because it's happening next week, which just happens to be Independence Day in Colombia, July 20th. We'll have a whole episode, an entire episode dedicated only, well, or mostly, just say mostly, to James Rodriguez. His legacy, his contributions, his reputation, a retrospect, right? Where does James stand all time when it comes to Colombia? What is his legacy when it comes to not just the national team, but just for Colombian soccer as a whole, right? We'll talk about that and we'll preview the upcoming Colombian Liga B play domestic league action, which is starting pretty soon. So, James, I think, again, gone. Cycles ended. And because it's time for Colombia also for a culture change. That's why I prefer also a new coach because I've been very critical of Lorenzo in that with him, with Colombia's repeated the same mistake that we've had over and over, which is a lot of friendships and a lot of preference over meritocracy, right? We've had the reports, we've had the stories that, yes, because the national teams build so much around James that it's really built a lot around the players that are friends with James, basically, which happen to be also the players that Lorenzo managed or helped manage as an assistant during the Peckerman days. Vargas, Ospina, Mina, Davinson Sanchez, Quintero, Johan Mojica. So a lot of those guys just keep hanging on, basically. Whereas they might not be the right players to start on the national team. We've heard reports and stories now coming out of this World Cup camp about disputes within the national team as late as after the Ghana game about players feeling like, why is James starting? When clearly he's not up to par. When Quintero is in a much better situation. Or the situation with Richard Rios, where he lost his spot even before the World Cup to Gustavo Puerta. And Rios was one of the most commercialized players for Colombia, right? So just dynamics like that I think could be easily solved and rid of if we just play who's best. National team soccer is about the moment. It's about who's doing well, who's in form at the moment because national teams only play about 3 months each time. So this is not a club where you reward the consistency and you allow players to recover from injury. You need players who are doing well now. And if a player is going through a slump or is not physically fit, maybe they shouldn't play. And Colombia has suffered from that the last 10 years, basically 15 years since James' debut. And not just with him. We've had Falcao playing under 100%. We've had Cuadrado playing under 100%. Ospina playing when he's not been in form. So that's the biggest change when it comes to culture. And it starts now by getting rid of those players who already completed this cycle. And that's the list that I presented to you. And I'll throw it up one more time just so you know where I'm coming from and who I'm talking about. Not this one. This one right here. So again, those players right there, cycle's over. Goodbye. Thank you for your service, right? Now, who comes in? because Colombia, of course, always have young players who are looking for a spot. And this is the time now, after the World Cup, Colombia are going to be playing presumably friendlies against Mexico, for example, in September. So that's when you would hope, number one, that we have a coach in place. Number two, that that coach is going to start implementing and giving chances to some of these players who are younger, who haven't had a chance, or who've only had just a couple looks. Excuse me, for the national team. We saw a lot of players who were in the pre-list, right? The preliminary list from the World Cup, the 55 list, who didn't make it, who now could get a look. I want to give credit to an X account at Mango Colombia, big fan of Flamengo, who compiled an incredible list of so many players. I'm gonna just count them really quick. We have 3, 6, 9. Okay, it's a lot, but I'm gonna say it's probably like around 60 to 70 players, and I'm gonna put that list now on the screen because this is a list, and look at the number and the amount of players who are gonna be 31 and under by the next World Cup in 2030. So you see some names again who are familiar. Kevin Mier has played for the national team, and I think he's the goalkeeper of the future for this team, even over Alvaro Montero, who's 31. Just because I think Mier overall is a better player. We've seen Alexei Rojas feature mostly as a sub for under 20 teams. We're seeing Jordan Garcia is, of course, the latest under 20 goalkeeper. Defenders, we've seen Keimer Sandoval was on that under 20 team that played so well at the last South American Championships and the last World Cup. Gerson Mosquera, he's played for the national team. He played in qualifiers for Colombia. We've seen guys also like Kevin Mantilla, who's featured on the under 20, Brian Medina, as well. Juan David Cabal, who's played for the full squad already for the senior team. So you already see names, of course. Gustavo Puerta, Richard Rios, right? Nelson de Osa has played for the national team, of course. And then you see names like Cesar Asprilla, who you would think, for example, with James and Quintero on their way out, it's his team now. Hamilton Campas, who for a lot of people who shouldn't be on the squad, but I mean he's young enough, he can come back. Carbonero, who a lot of people say should have played for Campas in the World Cup. He's only 26, and you see players like Sinisterra. He's been a known commodity now for a while. Neisser Villarreal, who was the MVP for the under 20 squad, even though for Cruzeiro things haven't worked out. Same thing with Santiago Londoño, who's been the crown jewel for the under 17 team as a striker. So you see a lot of names, and you see where Colombia can build a team around and from heading into 2030. So why are we hanging on to these players? Why are we hanging on to the old guard? Why are we hearing reports and speculation and rumors about James playing in the 2028 Copa America? That's ridiculous. It's preposterous. We have this list of players like Yasser Asprilla, like Juan Manuel Rengifo, like Miguel Monsalve, who have the youth and the skill to contribute now to the national team. We have to clean house as much as we can. And again, from the current squad that played in the World Cup, we have players who can still keep going, like Puerta, like Rios, like Andres Gomez, who's young enough. So no need to hang on, right? Davinson Sanchez is 30, and I think he's the future captain of this team. Even if he's going to be 34 during the next World Cup, let's see how it goes, right? He's at such a high level right now, he can hang on. Same with John Lukumi. So we got center backs for a long while still. We need fullbacks. We need attacking midfielders. We need strikers. Luis Suarez is 28, so he can maybe hang on, but we know the old story when it comes to strikers. Who can be the one to finally consistently score for this national team? And then there's Luis Diaz, who's 29. He's still today our best player. And I'm going to guess he'll be our best player probably through next European season and maybe the following. So by Copa America, he'll be 31. 30, 31. So he should still be able to contribute. Now, my question is, when it comes to Luis Diaz, is Is Luis Diaz going to continue being the speedy, skilled winger? Or as his physical traits start to wane maybe a little bit when he gets to 31, 32, 33, 34, is he going to evolve? Is he going to be playing at a high level still? Can we expect Luis Diaz to be there in 2030? We'll have to find out, right? There's a few players who, again, we can kind of hang on to them, but very few because they're that good, and see if they make it to 2030. Like Luis Diaz, like Davinson Sanchez, like Jefferson Lerma, like Wilmar Barrios, who was completely erased from the national team. And he'll be about 33, 34 come 2030. So players like that, right? Luis Suarez, Rafael Santos Borré, how will they get there? Will they get there? Or will any of these players that I just showed on the list be able to leapfrog them and earn their spot towards the future on this national team? So, as with every team after a World Cup, there's a chance to evolve, right? Davinson Sanchez said there's a chance to develop. No need to clean house. Just need to plug in the pieces for the future and think in the future and look towards the future and start thinking about the players who deserve, who earn a spot because of their level, not because of their name and what they did 5, 10, 15 years ago. That's the main core purpose of the exercise that the federation is going to do with choosing their coach, and that the coach is going to have to do looking ahead into a new World Cup cycle. We have to win Copa America, people. We made it to a final. We have the talent. There's no other way around it. Anything else besides winning Copa America 2028, regardless of where it's going to happen, championship or bust. Anything else is a failure. And the World Cup, again, the bar is the quarterfinals. Can we get there? Can we overcome that hurdle finally in 2030? Whether it's 48 teams, 68, God forbid, 64 teams, don't matter. Let's build something towards winning soccer in Colombia. Can we trust the current administration, the federation? Probably not. But we can hope, right? And naming the coach that goes a long way into doing that. And I hope it's a coach, again, with experience at a high level, at a national team setting, who knows what it takes to succeed in a continental tournament, in qualifiers, and in the World Cup. That's the mission. You let me know what Colombia needs to do. You tell me, do you think James should continue through 2028? Do you think Lorenzo should continue? Who do you keep? Who do you dump? Is there a name that you're looking for from the young, new generations coming that you're excited about? You tell me in the comments. In the meantime, I will let you know that I'll be back, as I previewed before, Monday, July 20th, Colombian Independence Day. We have to be here. We'll be here talking about the legacy of James Rodriguez. Where does he stand all time in Colombian soccer? What is his legacy after 15 years exactly of senior national team soccer? His club legacy after reaching the mountaintop, playing for Real Madrid, to where he is now, where he's just bouncing around, itinerant, if you will, like a nomad, looking for a home. We'll preview Liga B Play, the Colombian League, because that's starting on the 24th. So I'll tell you all you need to know about the tournament, how it works, who the teams we can expect to compete are, what's Colombia's outlook for Copa Libertadores and Sudamericana, because we have 3 teams left in total in both tournaments. So why do Colombia struggle so much in those tournaments at the continental level? We'll break that down. So join us next Monday, July the 20th, as we come back for episode number 12 of the Colombian Soccer Show. Make sure to hit us up. If you don't want to comment here, send me an email. There's the address. If you have any questions, any comments, I'm also looking for contributors. If you want to contribute your own segment, your own analysis, send it over to that email address right below. I'll make sure to read any questions, comments that you send my way on our next episode. And one more time, follow us as always here on YouTube, subscribe, like our video, and make sure to turn notifications on so you know exactly when new episodes drop on YouTube. Follow us also and like our page on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram, on X, and TikTok for all kinds of content all the way through the week between episodes as well. So we continue talking about Colombian soccer and any breaking news that happens. If we have a new coach, we'll have a special episode. We'll be here and we'll be also reporting via Instagram and TikTok with Reels if any news come about from the national team front or anything that's relevant when it comes to the Colombian national team and its players, because let's not forget also it's transfer window season. So any major transfers on the European front, on the South American front for the Colombian national team players, you're gonna hear it, and you're gonna hear analysis right here on the Colombian Soccer Show. So we'll see you again Independence Day, July 20th. For now, this is the end of this episode. Thank you again so much for joining us, and we'll see you again next time.